On August 8, 2014, Five Nights at Freddy's was released. The game changed the face of YouTube and Let's Plays, with many people taking it on as their main game to play. This also changed the lives of many kids, as well as adults who followed the franchise for the last 7 years. Earlier this week, Cawthon had some information released about him that changed many people's opinions about the man and the game and the franchise. His religious and political ideologies were made known to the public, as well as information about how much money he has donated to certain parties that many people were against. It was made known that Cawthon had supported individuals that were pro-life and anti-LGBTQ+. Needless to say, there has been an immense amount of backlash revolving around Cawthon and the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. Many fans have mixed feelings about the situation, and tags have been trending all over Twitter from "Cancel Cawthon" to "Thank You Scott" on his final days as being the head of Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, if you are out of the loop with Five Nights at Freddy's and Cawthon, he has decided to retire, as well as pass on the franchise to someone of his choosing. This means the franchise itself will not be discontinued, but will be allowed to carry on in a different light. The controversies revolving around Cawthon and Five Nights at Freddy's have many people believing that this has led to his retirement. I know a lot of people are going to assume that the backlash and doxing is what caused Cawthon to retire. But I believe he saw fan art like this and knew he had to get him and his family out of this community or fandom as fast as possible. I'll read some statements directly from Cawthon and as well as many individuals on Twitter that may help you understand the situation better. Here is a Reddit post that illustrates why people are upset with Cawthon's political choices as well as the money that he donated. Gonna preface this with I don't care if you still like or play the games or not. I'm not here to cancel, I'm here to explain why this kind of argument is weak. It doesn't matter if you say you're respectful to the other side if your actions say otherwise. People died and are dying of COVID because the people he funded were saying it was a hoax just to win an election. LGBT plus people had rights stripped from them over the last 4 years, and whether it was his main goal or not, he personally aided in it continuing. Disabled people have been living in fear, while bills to gut the ADA and weakened the already table-scrapped Social Security we depend on for survival has been passing the House. The already ridiculous, difficult process of reporting sexual assault in schools was made more complicated. No matter how much respect he thinks he has, actions speak louder than words. And his action said, "I don't mean any offense, but I'm willing to take your money and use it to sacrifice your lives and rights." His response on this particular issue was great and everything, but it boils down to lip service. I won't say, oh, his money went to anti-abortion, so it doesn't matter, because that's really not the biggest issue here. He saw what Trump did with COVID, botching vaccine purchases, ableism, racism, and LGBTQ+, and in the very best case scenario said, yeah, I don't care, it's worth it. If this had been an election 8 years ago, I wouldn't have given a damn. This was different. It wasn't a normal election. Civil rights are at stake, and Scott said, whatever issues is most important to me is worth the deaths and oppression of thousands more. Many people had this same sentiment, but unfortunately, people carried this a little too far. Scott ended up being doxxed and had his family put into jeopardy. Scott made a statement regarding these issues, and here is what he had to say. This message isn't specifically directed at the Reddit community. This is just the community that I cared about the most and where I chose to post these things. I never cared much for Twitter anyway. To say that the last few days have been surreal would be an understatement. I've debated greatly how best to address this, including not addressing it at all. But with so many people from the LGBT community in the fan base that I love, that's not an option. I'd like to think that the last 7 years would have given me the benefit of the doubt in regards to how I treat people. But there I was trending on Twitter for being a homophobe, getting doxxed, with people threatening to come to my house. My wife is 6 weeks pregnant and she spent the last nights in fear because of what was being said online. She has already been struggling with her pregnancy, so seeing her so afraid really scared me. All of this because I exercise my right and my duty as an American citizen to vote and support the candidates who I felt could best run the country for everyone, and that's something I won't apologize for. Scott carries on to explain who he voted for and why he thought those were the best choices at the time. If you feel like reading those, you can pause the video and take a look at that yourself. Scott also decided to make a statement on Steam so that people would know what he felt as they played his games. It's true there has been a lot of hate towards me lately on the forums, on YouTube, etc. And I'll be honest, it's difficult. It's difficult when people seem to dislike you only because you found success with something. I think people have this idea that I spent my days swimming in gold coins like Scrooge McDuck, cranking out games with no effort and laughing all the way to the bank. The reality is quite different. And I think that people who hate me for being successful are misguided. Did you know that last year I was working at a Dollar General? I worked as a cashier. I had 3 bosses who were all still in high school. Before that, I worked at a Target in the backroom freezer, unloading frozen foods. I haven't had a successful life, and now that God has blessed me with some success, I'm doing my best to be responsible with that success. I don't party on weekends, I don't get drunk or sip martinis. I spend my evenings playing Mega Man 3, Buster only, with my kids. And I try to do good with what's been given to me. I guess the reason I'm telling you all of this is to make sure that you know that I'm human. I have a lot of flaws, and I've made a lot of mistakes. My games aren't perfect, and they will never be. But something more important I want to convey to you all is that you should never listen to people who criticize success simply because it's success. Being good at something is something to strive for, not something to demonize. Criticism of my games are fine, and a lot of times the criticism is valid. But there are a lot of people out there who will hate everything that becomes popular just because it's popular, and hate anyone who becomes successful just because they are successful. Haters gonna hate, as they say. But I want you to know that focusing on someone else's failure or success is the wrong way to live. Scott has made his statements explaining his side on Reddit and Steam, and has made a final statement talking about the future of Five Nights at Freddy's. I've had a blessed, fulfilling, and rich career. I've been shown great kindness, and I've tried to show great kindness in return. I've tried to make some good games, let the debate ensue. And I've witnessed the creation of possibly the most creative and talented fan base on the planet. But here on the 7th anniversary of the first game's trailer, I realized that I was in my mid-30s when I created the series, and now I'm approaching my mid-40s. I realized that I miss a lot of things that I got to focus on before FNAF became such a success. I miss making games for my kids. I miss doing things just for fun. I miss making RPGs even though I stink at it. All of this is to say that I am retiring. I have been shown tremendous love and support over this last week, a lot of which has come from the LGBTQ+ communities. The kindness shown to me has been surreal. Is this the end of FNAF? No. This just means that someone else will eventually be running the show. Someone of my choosing and someone that I trust. We will have to wait and see how it all plays out, but an announcement will be made at some point. It looks like this isn't the last we'll be hearing from Scott Cawthon or Five Nights at Freddy's. I'd like to know what everybody thought about this as this roller coaster of a week went by for the Five Nights at Freddy's fandom. I'm sure this must be extremely hard for some people, and some people may be very angry about everything that went down. Let me know what you think in the comments section. You can always @ me on Twitter for suggestions of video topics you'd like me to discuss. And join the Discord server if you want to have a good time. I'll see y'all next time. Everybody take care. Later.